Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silent reflection for our servicemen and women throughout the world and for those who have passed away in our community. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Here.
Mr. Schuster?
Present.
Dr. Rothchild?
Here.
Mr. McAndrew?
Present.
Mr. King?
Here. Before we begin with the reading of the minutes, I do have a proclamation which was presented. I actually presented this at a dinner at La Buena Vita on Saturday evening, honoring Steve Visindak. So I would like to read that proclamation at this time. City of Scranton proclamation honoring Steve Visindak, October 21st, which was Saturday, 2023. Whereas Steve Visindak is a 1962 graduate of Scranton Preparatory School, where he was a 3-year starter on the Cavalier basketball team and garnered numerous honors, including All-American. Whereas following his graduation, Steve attended Duke University, where he continued his basketball career as the starting point guard, leading the Blue Devils to an ACC championship in 1964 and 1966, the NCAA championship in 1964, the NCAA Final Four in 1966, and an overall record of 72-14. Whereas Steve was honored for his achievement as the 1966 ACC Player of the Year, achieving career averages of 14.7 points, 5.3 rebounds per game. And whereas after signing with the Pittsburgh Pipers of the American Basketball Association, Steve participated on the organization's 1968 championship team. Whereas following his basketball career, Steve entered the Army, worked for Converse Rubber Company, and served his alma mater as the Associate Athletic Director, became the Athletic Director and head basketball coach at Winthrop University, and chaired the Appalachian State University Advancement Council for the College of Arts and Sciences. And whereas Steve completed an illustrious 16-year tenure as Executive Director of North Carolina Beautiful, a private nonprofit organization dedicated to preserving the natural beauty of North Carolina through environmental education and outreach. And whereas, while he resides in Raleigh, North Carolina, Steve frequently visits his hometown of Scranton and is active with the William J. Garrity Team Player Award Committee, which presents 2 annual scholarships to local basketball players. And whereas, as a hometown hero of Scranton, an inductee into the Duke University North Carolina Halls of Fame, the Duke University and North Carolina Halls of Fame, an advocate for elevating culture of sports in northeastern Pennsylvania, Steve deserves recognition for all he has contributed to the sport of basketball and our region. Therefore, Mayor Paige G. Cognetti, along with city council members, declare October 21st, 2023 to be Steve Visindak Day in the city of Scranton. And I'd like to honor and thank Steve for championing education, the environment, and the sport of basketball in our city and across this country. So congratulations to Steve Visindak for his outstanding career. Okay, there will be a motion this evening to move item 5B to 6th and 7th order for a final vote. This ordinance is to extend the local declaration of emergency as a result of the localized flooding that occurred on September 9, 2023 to October 20th, 2023. Anyone who'd like to speak on this piece of legislation may do so in 4th order during citizens' participation. Please dispense with the reading of the minutes.
3rd order, 3A, Lackawanna County Planning Commission reports received October 17, 2023. 3B, minutes of the Scranton Firefighters Pension Commission meeting held September 20th, 2023. 3C, minutes of the Scranton Police Pension Commission meeting held September 20th, 2023. 3D, agenda for the non-uniform Municipal Pension Board meeting held October 18th, 2023. 3E, minutes of the Composite Pension Board meeting held September 20th, 2023. 3F, minutes of the non-uniform Municipal Pension Board meeting held September 20th, 2023. 3G, Code Enforcement Report dated October 11th, 2023, for City Council received October 16th, 2023.
Are there any comments on any of the third order items? If not, received and filed. Do any council members have any announcements at this time?
I have a quick one, and it's a reminder. I mentioned it a couple weeks ago that the Scranton DPW union workers will have a truck or treat this Sunday, October 29th, from 3 to 6. It'll be at the DPW parking lot on 101 West Poplar Street. Trucks and heavy equipment on display. There'll be candy, live DJ, decorations, and family fun. And that is all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McAndrew. Anyone else? I have two. Well, maybe three, actually. Just a reminder for residents who are going to be out and about driving on Tuesday, October 31st, that children will be out trick-or-treating that evening. I just ask everyone if they could please be very careful. It gets dark early, and just driving, because kids get excited. They're running across the street. They're, out there trick-or-treating, trying to have fun with their family. So just please be careful on Halloween night. Also, as a result of Halloween happening on Tuesday of next week, and we have several members of our council who have very young children, some have grandchildren who are trick-or-treating age, we're going to move our meeting next Tuesday from October 31st to Thursday, November 2nd at 6:30. And the following week, we're going to move the meeting schedule for November 7th, which is Election Day, to Thursday, November 9th at 6:30. So the next two council meetings will be on Thursday evenings. And that's all I have.
Fourth order, citizen participation.
Joan Hodowanitz.
Joan Hodowanitz, Scranton. Do we have a status on the audit?
Frank, have we received anything yet on the audit?
There was supposed to be a special meeting held today, but due to a lack of quorum, it's rescheduled to this Thursday in the governor's room at 5:30.
So we're basically held up by the Scranton Sewer Authority, correct?
That's correct, Mr. King.
Yeah, I saw the announcement in the legals in today's paper. Mr. Schuster, you have the Finance Committee, correct? Why don't you and I go there and try to put the fear of God in those people? I guess nothing else is working, but here we go again. Speaking of here we go again, firefighters' contract is still not on the website. It's 203 days. That's much more than 120. Anybody got an idea when they're going to get their act together and put it on the website?
I do not, but last night I was going through the several different pieces of that firefighter's contract to find a specific item I was looking for, and I couldn't find it in those documents, so it would have been nice to have that.
Well, I'll tell you something,
that
I
end
mean,
piece.
for the arbitrator to have gotten it settled after their negotiations, they can't use the excuse, well, we have so many pieces of paper we have to put together. Because if that were true, then they never should have come to any kind of agreement, and the arbitrator should not have been able to make a decision. So somebody needs to be asking questions, because that's a document that should be disclosed to the public. That's public money. And, another thing is, you look at the personnel handbook. Okay, for unionized employees, we'll refer them in many of the chapters, see your union contract. So what is a firefighter supposed to do? He can't look at his union contract because it hasn't been published yet. And the same thing's going to happen with the police, I guarantee you. This nonsense needs to stop. Somebody needs to hold the administration accountable. We keep paying Ufberg month after month. This is if they made a decision on the contract and it's settled, what you're talking about is a typing drill. And I can't believe we can't find a couple competent typists to have gotten this done in 203 days. Give me a break. Oh, speaking of giving me a break, item 7E, Selena Ondiapan's appointment to the Land Bank. Whatever happened to her resume?
Did we receive that this afternoon?
I asked
We
for it
did. We
last
received that late this afternoon, Mr. King.
Okay.
Okay. Item 5E, the review of non-taxable properties by Rudolph Clark LLC. I saw the billable hours, $200 per hour for, the lawyers, but is there a cap on the contract itself? No, not to exceed a certain dollar amount for the year? Or is it an open-ended contract?
I don't know that answer, but I think that's an excellent question.
Oh, I should have become a lawyer. I missed my calling. Okay.
Can we still reach out to the administration and investigate like the possibility of, putting a cap in there, or why isn't there a cap, or just some type of explanation as to why that doesn't exist?
No, was that item 7A?
Because if you look at Mr. Uffberg's billable hours, you could be paying a lot of money, enough to build a pool at Naog. Okay, when are we going to get the draft budget on the agenda? When will that appear? When in November? November 14th, November 21st? Do you have an idea?
I believe it's, I don't have the exact date, but I know it will either be November 2nd or November, I believe.
You mean the Thursday?
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
okay,
The
all right.
2nd or the 9th, I believe.
I hope so.
Frank, would you reach out to administration and ask them exactly when? I know that they're legally bound to submit that to us. I think it's 45 or 60 days before December 31st.
Correct. We should have that by the 15th, but we will have it much sooner.
Right, okay.
And the other thing is, please tell us in fifth order your progress on legislation for tax relief for the victims of the flooding. Thank you.
Thank you, Joan. Mike Mancini?
Good evening, City Council. My name is Mike Mancini. President King, you weren't here the last 2 weeks. I hope your recovery's gone well. I know you dialed in last week. So again, my question is regarding the sale of the Scranton Parking Authority and the Scranton Sewer Authority. Now, actually, I would like to ask Solicitor Gallagher his opinion, and I had spoken to 3 different people with municipal experience, 3 different attorneys, over 50 years experience. Now, when a body, an elected body, goes and ratifies a budget for an authority, they have every right to look at that audit and any trailing documents. Attorney-client privilege is not in play, which Attorney Shrive clearly stated after the sale of the sewer authority. An authority cannot be actually audited unless the municipality requests the audit, along with the mayor in this case, or the Scranton School Board. And then therefore, the Auditor General's office has to accept it, put together the necessary manpower. Now, each one of these people on this council, along with the school board, which I will be appearing at tomorrow night, and I will pose the same question to the actual solicitor. Now, I already know the answer to this question. When a body turns around, pays for something, they have every right to look at it, they have every right to audit it, they have to make sure that what they're paying for on behalf of the citizens, taxpayers of the city in this case, has to be true, correct, and precise. They're not going to be able to pay for something and not look at it, look at the trailing documents to see why 50 attorneys, $3.1 million, which clearly could have paid for a good portion of the pool, right? We're only as good as who we elect. So my question to you, Attorney Gallagher, today is, does each one of these members have a right to look at that audit any trailing documents to determine if there's any wrongdoing?
As an elected official, I believe they do.
Okay. Council members, one by one, if you had the ability, would you actually want to look at those documents, trailing documents, transparency to determine why 50 attorneys were paid? One attorney paid $123,000 over 1 month. And each of you are complaining about $200 to Upberg. Attorneys received $800 an hour, okay? $2.5 million we're looking at. Limerick Township, $71.1 million. 2 law firms, $600,000. All right? Didn't require 50 attorneys. Same system. There was not that many questions for this to happen. You have a city solicitor. You have a title company. You have an insurance for a title company. It's buyer beware. Not only did the corrupt mayor sell this system for a lot less than what it was actually should have been sold for. Prior to COVID, $195 million. My opinion, it was probably worth about $300 million. And now probably about $425 million. So not only did he short sale it, not that he didn't even tell this particular body prior to the sale when it received a settlement statement 3 days before closing. Didn't tell the citizens of the city, taxpayers, didn't tell media, and he didn't tell this body. So I want to ask each one of you this evening, you have the ability to look at these documents, trailing documents. What are you going to do about it? If you see any wrongdoing, are you going to go to the Times? Are you going to go to local media sources? What are you going to do as an elected official? Each one of you that are sitting in those seats, men and women appeared and sat in those very same seats before you. Many of them did the right thing. We have a railway system that's coming through here, not in the not so distant future. And I keep saying this, we have to be proactive. We cannot be reactive, all right? Our streets are being taken over in blight. Recently, we're taking police officers and we're allowing them to move outside the city, creating additional blight, all right? We're only as good as who we elect. I would like each one of you to state to the people and those who elected you where you stand on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mancini. Lee Morgan?
Good evening, Council. The first thing I have here is Mr. Bolus donated these 2 flags to the city. He'd like to give them to you, Mr. King, and maybe somebody will put them up. One is the Ukrainian flag and one is the Israeli flag.
Thank you, and thanks to Mr. Bolus for donating those to the city.
He thought it was important to do that, and you know, I'd hope that the city would replace the flags outside because they look a little tattered, but do as you please. The first thing I'd like to hit on, because the previous speaker talked about the sale of the sewer authority. Look, everybody knows that that was a very corrupt deal, but you have to look at the PUC and a lot of other people that had their hands in all this stuff, and the way it was introduced and the way it was followed through. This mayor that evidently later was found guilty of crimes committed a lot of injustices against the residents of this city. And I lay all of our financial problems basically at the feet of Chris Doherty, who absolutely looted this city when he was mayor. And for all the people that were running around with these Restore the Pride signs in their yard, God help them, I hope they got counseling up to this point. And the other thing I have is, you know, finally the mayor has responded to my complaint in federal court. Her attorney has reached out to me on Gmail. And the most amazing thing is that I gave a written request to the council and I gave a written request to the mayor, which is my right as a citizen to address my form of government, to ask them to rectify things that I think is a problem. But you know, when a mayor locks you out of City Hall, refuses to return calls, may not be competent, and then doesn't want to go to court against a truck driver who's managed to go file some documents in federal court. You know, I just find that really proves just how broken our government really is. See it for what it is. I mean, look at our city, look at our country. It's in complete decline. You can see it everywhere you look. This isn't a secret to anybody here. Look at the pool project we're talking about today. Just totally out of this world. I mean, no concession. We like to have ice skating in the wintertime. I don't know why the splash pool can't second as an ice skating ring in the winter. I don't know why we can't try to develop a much larger pools than we're talking about, because anything less than 1,500 people isn't even worth building. The last pool never had the capacity it needed either. And the most troubling thing is, we're building it with grant money because the city won't invest in itself. The city hasn't invested in itself in so long, it's ridiculous. And the people, they've walked away. I know a lot of people who shut the door on their house and just left it there. That doesn't tell you that the people have any faith in their government. I don't have any in Scranton government because I've come to these meetings for almost 40 years. I've saw a lot of politics. I've seen a lot of long-winded council people that, in the end, did absolutely nothing except more harm to the residents than the previous council. And where are we really going here? And the last thing I have here is that, you know, some people may not appreciate what I say from time to time, but if you expand where you get your news from, you'll find out now that the Israelis are complaining because the President of the United States wants a ceasefire himself. And when you look at the atrocities that were committed against those people, it's absolutely ridiculous. And when you really see the news and see what the Chinese are doing, you know, Mitch McConnell got up in the Senate and talked about the Iranians, okay, the Russians and the Chinese. They're pushing us right out of the world. And this guy's walking around and he can't even walk up a set of steps and doesn't even know where he is. And people are worrying about whether people are Democrats and Republicans. Be very afraid.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. Ron Ellman.
Good evening, Council. I hope to see those flags out front when I look for a parking place. You know, as I read last week's paper of Kelly's account of his admiration of his newfound friend, Dominic Sadat, I found it more of an apologetic excuse for Sadat's continual, never ceasing letters that appear in this paper, I don't know, for maybe the last couple years anyway, against Israel and the Jewish people. But he always has his undying, unadulterated support for the evil, vile bunch that attacked Israel. This is Kelly's newfound friend. Kelly finds me a bigot for my opposition to all this illegal filth that has overcome this country. But if you have a poison pen, use it. And it's your opinion. It doesn't matter. I've sent letters in, 3 paragraphs, they censor it, take a paragraph out, then it sits there for months. I just don't see a difference between an opinion and not printing letters. I've heard probably since the school was built, a dozen people tell me their letters were lost to the editor. This man seeks sympathy for those in Gaza, forgiveness. Now, what we have is the perpetrators are the victims. That's ridiculous. All these people on the streets, because of our open door policy, I can almost guarantee they're clothed, fed, and housed by American taxpayers. Things have just gotten completely out of hand. It's for the worst. The real Americans are stifled and being put in jail. But one of Kelly's deliberate falsehoods was the accusation that the Jewish forces destroyed homes and businesses and stores on their leave of Gaza. This is totally unfounded. It's a deliberate lie because the intentions were to leave everything intact as much as they could because it would appease the incoming occupants. Maybe somebody would appreciate it. Well, you know, it's a great sadness, and I think that Kelly's slop he put in the paper about these people is outrageous. It's just I think Mr. Kelly just impersonates a writer or something. If he wasn't, I think he'd be in New York City like some of the other people that came from this area. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ullman. Les Spindler.
Good evening, Council. Les Spindler, city resident homeowner. I'd like to thank Bob Bolus for donating those 2 flags. I thought that was a very nice gesture, and I hope they're displayed, not just thrown in a drawer somewhere. Next thing. Well, for a long time now, Norman Jeffries has talked about street signs, and someone brought up about possibly putting decals on them to save money. And I know that's something the city can do. I know from experience. Because about 2 years ago, there was an 18-wheeler lost in my neighborhood. They're not supposed to be in that neighborhood, there's signs. And he tore the wires off my house along with the street sign. When this new street sign was put up, it said Bulwer Street and North Rebecca Street. It should have been North Rebecca Avenue. And I came here, and DPW put a decal over where it said street and made it avenue. So that could be, we could use decals. It's been done. It's right on my corner. Next thing, last week I was watching the meeting and Marie Schumacher commented about a dog that was lost and people put signs up and the dog was found. And Marie said that she and her young friend took the initiative to go around taking all the signs down. I thought that was very nice on her part. And we need more people thinking about where they live to do stuff like that. That was really, she didn't have to do that. That was a really nice gesture for her to do. Next thing. There was a pothole I wanted to talk about tonight, but on my way here tonight, I see it was filled in. It was under the railroad bridge on Main Avenue that the trucks were always getting stuck under. Last week in the dark, I hit that pothole. So I was going to come tonight and talk about it, but I went by this morning and it was still a pothole, but coming here tonight, it was filled in. Whether that was PennDOT or the city, I don't know, but I'd like to thank whoever did it because was a pretty big pothole. Because I know Main Avenue is a state road, but probably the DPW did it, but I don't know for a fact. Next thing, lately I've heard talk about nonprofits, and I've come to this podium for 15, 20 years and talked about how the nonprofits don't give the city enough. For all the tax-paying properties that the University of Scranton took off the tax rolls, they don't pay anything compared to what they should be paying. And I've said that years ago. When Chris Doherty was in office, I complained that he was letting them get away with murder. We got to step up and make these nonprofits pay more. It's ridiculous. The U is taking half the city over. It's unbelievable the buildings they took off the tax rolls. So they got to do more to try to help the city. What they give us is a drop in the bucket compared to what they make. That's all I have tonight. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Spindler. John Howe.
Good evening, Council. My name is John Howe, resident, taxpayer, Scranton, independent candidate for City Council 2-year seat. I come here tonight for 2 reasons. First, to get a phone call from a friend who has a handicap parking situation where she's calling the Scranton police after hours where a parking authority is no longer in office. People are halfway, parking in her handicap spot to where she now needs to walk up the hill to get on the bus in the morning to be able to get to her treatments. Last night, Scranton police showed up, said, bring it to City Council because there's no ordinance on us to have to ticket them. So here I am on her behalf. Mr.
Howe, do you have an address for that?
I don't have it readily. I would have to get it. I believe she contacted Mr. Voldenberg today.
All right, thank you.
I have all the information from this afternoon. I'll follow up with everyone tomorrow.
So I just wanted to make sure I followed through on what I said, and I would touch base with City Council on that. Thank you for that. Now for the second reason I'm here. I find myself at a crossroad. As elected officials, there's a certain duty that you have to the citizens. And Mr. Smurl, it seems like you want to skirt the duty and call me a clown. Well, here I am with my big nose and big shoes. Why won't you debate? The people deserve to know what you're going to do for the future. You do great when it comes to talking about the pool with your buddies for 5 lots you did last week. Landscaping is awesome. I appreciate it. City appreciates it. It's much needed. But what are your actual plans? Why won't you step up and have civil discourse with somebody? I'm nobody who's anybody special. You could probably demolish me in a debate. But why not give the people what they deserve and what's a time-honored tradition of politics in America? It's a linchpin of American politics. Do you feel that you are above me, above the taxpayers, what they need? Or do you believe that just your tenure of being Gerald Smurl, HVAC technician, owner, business guy, is gonna be enough just to get you the seat and get you the votes? I'm not looking to have you have a drawn-out conversation. I understand that when I got the responses, you're busy. You're a busy man, as all council members are. We have 2 council members who are showing up this Thursday to a debate. I know you guys have very busy schedules. And for that, I'm willing to accommodate. Give me a time, any place that suits your needs, and we can give the people what they deserve. That is a part of this job. That is a part of what you were appointed to. You weren't elected, Mr. Smurl. Now it's time to put your money where your mouth is, and your signs say a little less talk, a lot more action. Give them what they deserve, okay? Not ignore me on social media. This is day 6 now of me being polite and asking, give me a time, give me a place. There's no ill will. This is just civil discourse. This is the heart of American politics. This is the heart of Scranton. Do we not deserve that? Miss Rothchild, Mr. McAndrew, they'll be there Thursday night. You guys are busy. I know that you guys have jobs, families, but it's what is deserved. What is your plans? What is the ideas for the future? And that way we can hold you accountable if you do become elected and then you backtrack. You know, it's a way of being accountable, transparency. So I'm willing to, you can reach out to me. Call me, message me, Facebook, phone number, social media, it's everywhere. Email, john.howe1014@gmail. I will accommodate. I will switch my schedule around to give the people what they deserve, what they're owed. And at that, I thank you all. Have a wonderful night.
Thank you, Mr. Howe. Norma Jeffries.
Good evening, Norma Jeffries, Scranton resident. I'm going to start off tonight with the rules of council. I think maybe each time before we start council, that everyone should be required to read the rules of council. The one that I just circled just now, and maybe it doesn't fall under that, it says, where is it? There's name calling. No person, including members of council, shall use their time during citizens' participation to personally insult or attack any individual. I'm not sure what that all is involved of attacking, but I don't think that anytime we get here to the podium that we should address any of our comments to any individual of the council members. And yes, you are all elected officials, and you're all sitting there to help us as the citizens of Scranton, but I just felt that that little caveat that you have there in the council rules, should be restated.
Thank you, Norman. Just so you know, if I felt like Mr. Howe was attacking Mr. Smurl, I would have stopped it, but I think he was just...
Well, I'm just not a confrontational person, and when I hear things like that, not only Mr. Howe, just other times...
No, I get it. Believe me, and I'm not afraid to use the gavel, but I felt like he was being respectful and just, making a request of Mr. Smurl.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, the things that I had on my list to talk about tonight was our streets again. I don't understand. We have a list of the streets that were supposed to be paved this over this past summer, I guess. And then they also went around and patched at different areas. I know they patched in my area today. So I can't understand, why would they be patching now when we're going into winter, when they're supposed to be paving, I thought, during earlier this year.
There was a fall list and there's a spring list. And I believe they only were able to get a certain number done, during the fall. But I know that the remainder on that list will be done in the spring. So I guess they're just trying to at least fill a couple potholes to get us through the winter, and then...
But what happened to the street paving? I thought mine was on for spring paving.
Spring of this year?
I thought.
No, I think the list that came out was fall of '23 and the spring of '24
I'll recheck it.
Okay, I'm sorry,
recheck it.
yeah.
But I was expecting my street to be paved, and it was not. So, and I was also wondering about the street cleaning, and where's the schedule for street cleaning? And I know that the leaves are all falling and all, but I know that there is a schedule, and I was just wondering about that as well. And you know, when you think of all the things that the city has to do, but as someone who, I've had knee surgery, and I'm very careful about where I walk, so when the streets have the gravel and that little cinder stuff, it's very difficult, and it's very easy for someone to slip and fall on the cinder. So that's why I bring it up. The other thing that I wanted to address tonight was I was glad I got here for the Naog Park aquatic experience, which was a council presentation tonight. I would have liked to have been included in the meetings, Mr. Smurl. I thought I was supposed to be at the meetings, but, so I was sort of surprised when I came in here tonight and saw that there was a presentation. Eileen was kind enough to give me the printouts, and I will go over them because there are a couple things that I had to question. I always want to be able to raise my hand during caucus, but I know that's not allowed. But one of the things that they were both able to address, and I think Dr. Rothchild, you addressed it as well, as the difference between the operating expense and the maintenance. And they're two different things, but yet, like you said, there's no line item on there, and it made sense when Eileen Cipriani was speaking. They don't know what the maintenance is going to be once the pool is in there. But I do have the printout now, and I know I will, be reading it and marking it up for some of the things that I consider should have been addressed in the presentation tonight. And who am I? I'm just a normal old citizen, but a concerned citizen about what's best and what I think should be in there. And I think when I speak for not only myself, but other residents of Scranton as well. So I thank you for the time tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Jeffries. That exhausts our sign-in list. Is there anyone else like to be heard by council?
Good evening, council. Tom Coyne. As of the pool presentation, I found it quite interesting that the first picture that was involved, when they showed the entire complex of where the pools were, the grand open space, the first pool was about 1/7 of the size of the original two pools. It's stuck down in the corner, and we have over 50% of what that area used to be, being two general purpose courts and a bunch of pickleball courts. When I saw they were getting $100 million, getting $1 million, $50,000 plus 50 for the pickleball courts, and knowing that pickleball courts cost about $9,000 to actually put down, I wondered what was happening with that money and what was going on. It seems like a lot of money going into planning and everywhere else, other than I don't understand how $1 million is necessary for 8 pickleball courts and 2 basketball multi-purpose courts. I'm not even sure we need that many to take up half of the area, what that swimming pool area in Naog Park was. Sometimes it's nice when the facilities are separated so you have different activities in different parts of the park. Because when you go to a park, you're supposed to walk around it and look at the entire environment, not go to one specific spot, stay there for the day and leave. The entire park should have a purpose. So I don't know why we need 6 or 8 pickleball courts specifically in that area. The second option offered about 1/4 of the space for the 2 pools. The ones that had the 2 pools separated was about 1/4 of the space that was used prior. I think that's really too small for the capacity and for the limited time that it's open. I understand that 5B tonight is being fast-tracked yet again, as 5B is a duplication of the one that was put forward last week and voted down before this body. I understand that it's not exactly because we've changed the end date, but I have no idea why we need a fast-track rush to push something through that is retrospective in nature. It's already happened, it's already gone. There's no reason to go from 5th to 6th to 7th other than to push it down the throat without people looking at it. This should follow the normal path of procedure in this body. It shouldn't be up when it was voted down to be put up again for a revote especially not this year. I understand that's how we do things in this body now, is when things are lost in vote, we just vote them again until they go through. I hope that Mr. Smurl does the same thing he did in the last vote and vote no, especially if the paperwork that was requested for what happened in these emergencies has not been brought forward. And if it is, please let us know in fifth order. Mr. Smurl stated that the pools were both leaking before closing, and the large water loss was the decision to shut them down. I understand that, but the pool slides weren't that issue. As a member of the body who was on the board and working for those, how come was the removal of the slides ever brought forward to you, Mr. Smurl, or to anyone in the body before it was taken down? And if you were blindsided by it because it was not brought to you, how come this has not been addressed publicly, since at that point, if the body who was in control of it did not authorize it, why hasn't the mayor been brought to task on doing something that was beyond her power? Do you have an explanation for that?
When I was, the pool slides were taken down, I was unaware of that. But after that, when I had left the board, and then it hadn't been addressed any further.
Why not? If the mayor does not have the authority for that pool complex, it's the board once it's done, correct?
Well, the rec authority runs the day-to-day operations of the park, but the city actually owns the park. So I don't know what would make it right or wrong for taking it down. I disagree it was taken down. I wasn't in town when it was taken down.
If the city runs it exclusively in closing, why do we have a board? The board is there to make the rules and regulations and operations specifically of that. If the mayor does that, we don't need a board. No reason for two heads. Boards are supposed to have authority over what they own in their domain.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to be heard?
Hello, Council. I'm Rick Little, and I would like to talk about protections for the elderly and disabled in Scranton Housing Authority and how to preserve your home. I've discovered that there's a lot of litigation going through the magistrate court, which is a court of no records. I'm trying to figure that out. Anyway, most of the people being evicted are being evicted for lease violations. I'd like to tell all the elderly and disabled that if you receive that, to look at Section 10 of your lease, because all city and county agencies, everything, the police, the code enforcement, is supposed to go, is your right under your lease, yet they are sidetracking that. And I've discovered legislation recently that Scranton Housing Authority doesn't have a rental license, yet they are using the district attorneys and the courts and the Agency on Aging and everything to get rid of people, and it's unjust, unfair. I'd like to emphasize the importance of everybody who lives in public housing and everybody who cares about their city and county to please vote in the local election that's coming up on November 7th. There's fast coming up deadlines for mail-in voting, and the voting around here takes place at the high school this year rather than in the elderly housing as it used to have. But you have to make you have to make sure you're registered to vote, and you vote for the people that I believe, having lived in Scranton housing for 14 years, that are going to protect your rights. And that includes Tom Schuster, Mark McAndrew, and Mark Payne for City Council. And in the Lackawanna County Commissioners vote, I believe that Chris Schermack, and I believe her first name's Diane Campbell, are the people in the county commissioners that you have to put in, because a lot of people have been in these offices for years and years, and there's it's just driving the city into the toilet. So you have to vote in these local elections. Most people think elections are, you know, either Republican or Democrat and based on the presidential thing, but it's very important to understand that your rights under your lease, under the Pennsylvania Constitution, under everything is to vote, because if you get, they just hand out, you know, you're evicted for violating the terms of the lease, and they never gave me a lease. I had to dig it up, but it's right there in the lease, and my lease has provisions for grievance procedures, which they've never done. And they've never included those grievance procedures every time they go to the magistrate court to review it. And, you know, these courts are, you know, it's all business. It's all Pennsylvania criminal procedure. And if you're not a lawyer, they're not going to listen to you. So please register to vote. And vote for the right people: Chris Schermack, Campbell, Mark Payne, Tom Schuster, and Mark McAndrew. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Little. Is there anyone else who would like to be heard?
Good evening, Council. Thanks for having me. Pat LaFrance, Scranton resident. I came up here last week and I spoke, and I said what I thought was happening to me, and I left. I ended up minutes later on that chair there after I spoke at the podium, and I had 3 people who I don't know. Maybe it's the same person using 3 different social media, I don't know, but I had 3 different people I don't know contact me and give me information on what's going on, and it's not good. It's not good at all. There's people screaming to get information out from inside this building, and some of them are being hushed. Sometime in April, no, I'm going to say June. Sometime in June, I filled out for a permit for my house to do some technical work at my 2nd floor bathroom. I wanted to do the work. The permit went through the application went through the permit office. And Mr. Marino, one of the Marino brothers, caught the application and asked Mr. Oleski, can a homeowner do this type of work? And when that was asked, I sent a legal pad this size, a sketch, Everything I wanted to do in my bathroom, every measurement that's in my bathroom, I sent it in. And my permit was approved within 20 minutes, I believe. So I went ahead and I went and I did that stuff. And in the meantime, I had an altercation, a road rage altercation with a Scranton contractor. And that was the day I got invited to the party here. And if he did check my resume, he'd have known. People don't invite me to parties for a reason. I get to parties, I raise the atmosphere, and sooner or later, I run into somebody who I have friction with. And when I got involved with down here, Tom Oleski tried to show me his muscle and keep me quiet. And I look at that as a turn on. That excited me. I'm now his friend forever. And we're going to have fun. So anyway, I notified the city of Scranton through these permits, specifically Robin Salemba and Tom Oleski. I told them that the power on my second floor has been shut off since 2015. The meter was taken in 2020. I stated that on one of my permit notes. They know that for weeks now. Robin Salemba is the manager of the rental registration, whatever. She is sending me letters, threatening me with, I'm not in compliance with the rental registration order. So then I go and I file appeal against Oleski. I filed the appeal yesterday against my permit denial. And I would like to know, I have filed that appeal against Mr. Oleski, the leader of the zoning department. How does he get my appeal today? He get a hold of it. And he gives me a phone call and says, Pat, come pick up your permit. Your permit's ready. I approved your permit. Here, come pick that up and you could take this appeal in your check and you could have your $300 too. Not me, babe. I'm not that guy. We're going through with this. They gave me, Tom Oleski and the other girl, they gave me an opinion, their opinion, on a law that didn't have anything to do with me. So I'm going to give you my opinion right now. The mayor was involved in something, her and her administration. The permit office knew about this and they were keeping records. They turned these records over to their friend who happens to be a Scranton contractor. That contractor went to the mayor and showed his hand and said, look what I got you. The mayor didn't do nothing. That guy went to the permit office and he abused the permit office and the rights of it since then. And he's gotten so big in the permit office, nobody can do nothing to him now. There are people inside this building screaming out and they're getting fired. They're being hushed. Somebody's got to look into this. How's this guy he gets an appeal and he calls me and says, let's sweep this under the rug? I don't know, that's got to be illegal.
Thank you, Mr. France.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to be heard?
Good evening, Council. Dave Dobson, resident, taxpayer. We hear quite a bit about Gaza, and you know, that raid was horrendous, but currently there's about 5,000 casualties in Gaza. So I don't want to take a side for anybody, but I think it's time that both of those parties get new leadership. You can't just keep going at it and dragging the world into, and of course, Iran is in the picture, and by the way, they're heavily aligned with Comrade Putin. So I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't have his little stringy thingy in there with the puppets, and you know, it'll throw up a smoke screen and we'll forget all about Ukraine. There's a few people in Congress that think that we should switch the, but at any rate, even as early as, which was more than 100 years ago, World War I, 1 in 5, only 1 in 5 of the deaths and casualties were people in uniform. The rest are just normal people. A bomb hit here or an artillery shell. The Germans had a cannon that fired 155 miles or something like that. And they hit on Sunday morning, they hit a cathedral. So, you know, this has to stop. And certainly we don't have the resources with how stretched out we are to keep taking sides. It's not in our best interests. The only things in our best interest is if both parties stop and learn how to solve their problems. That swimming pool is up again, the issue, and we're talking about replacing the swimming pool, so it looks like down at Weston Field. And I would hope that any kind of study would include the cost of repairs. And if it's considerably less, then judging by the finances of the city, you know, we just got out of distress status, and I don't know, I almost wish that we stayed there. I almost wish we stayed there, because it starts giving the ability to go into loans and this and that and back and forth, and a lot of money gets spent, and we have $50 million worth of parking garages from 15 years ago that don't have a great purpose. And by the way, getting back to our streetscapes or walkability or whatever, in New York City they have bike paths and rat-free dumpsters occupying parts of the street. And a man with a food truck has to park his truck 30 blocks away from his neighborhood and hop the bus home. So it's things to consider. We don't need it. And as far as two-way streets, two-way avenues here, the right way to do it would be to have traffic signals on both sides. The traffic signal gives you the right to proceed, whereas many people are trying to beat that stop sign instead of the traffic signal. And that's when some real trouble can come in. You know, the rolling stop, and it's just not because you get caught with a policeman behind you. It's because you rolled through a stop sign and hit somebody or caused an accident. I'd never get the money out of my car that it's really worth in transit value. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dobson.
Have a good night.
You too. Is there anyone else who'd like to be heard?
Fifth order, 5A motions.
This evening, we had an executive session to discuss litigation as it relates to the Schreiner lawsuit and NRS. Mr. Smurl, any motions or comments?
Yes, I do. First, I guess I have to answer this, but the way I run my campaign, it's not an agenda item. nor does it have anything to do with city business, and that's really why we are here. So it would be really inappropriate of me to discuss any of that, so I won't. The second thing, Mr. Coyne, you had a question on all of the emergency items. Mr. Schuster had sent it in last week. I assume, Tom, you'll go over all the answers?
Yeah, I was going to go over some of those.
Okay, so I won't. I'll just leave that alone, so he has all of those answers for you. The other thing, last council meeting, Len Schrebro had asked us to go to and look at the flood area over on Meridian, or I guess it was Merrifield. And we went in two separate groups so that it wouldn't look like there was a quorum or we had any kind of a public meeting. I myself and Councilwoman Rothchild went together, and we listened to all their complaints. And so what we did, I just compiled down all of the complaints and things that myself and Jessica did, and we laid out a map of all of the streets they had and where they thought the piping and stuff was to be changed. At some point they figured 24-inch piping was reduced and stuff. But anyway, we made this up for them. I thought Mr. Schrebel would be here this evening, but he's not. And we actually went into the pump house, checked the pumps. Everything is in operating condition. It looks like there is a new pump there, and there's a new motor there, and a bunch of new electrical equipment, but I guess because that was flooded. But anyway, Mr. Voldenberg, I will leave this with you. If you could forward this to Mr. Cerebro, and also if you would send this to the administration and ask them if they would forward it to a city engineer, just to look at it, to see if everything that they're looking for to repair that pipe and all of the other sewer lines and stuff that were connected over there, if they were just looking at that, if that would help them. And that's all I have.
I will, Mr. Smurl.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smurl. Mr. Schuster?
All right, to follow up on Kaiser Valley, myself and Mr. McAndrew, as well as Solicitor Gallagher, did go over, meet with some of the residents in that area. Gary DeBillio from the county came as well, and he brought one of the officials, the emergency response person from the county that came over with him as well. Two separate meetings happened, and myself at one meeting and Mr. McAndrew at another had requested that Solicitor Gallagher take a look at, as the taxing body of the city, if council can unilaterally move on some property tax rebates or forgiveness. So it's something that I've been thinking about recently. I know it's something that Mr. McAndrew has been thinking about recently. I know some news came out that the mayor has requested a meeting with the city, between the city, the school district, and the county. So I think at this point in time, we're waiting to see what's come out of that. I would like to know who's been invited to that meeting. So, Mr. Voldenberg, if we could reach out and ask who's been invited to the meeting. I know at this point, I don't think have any councilmen been invited to this?
I was invited, yes.
All right. Is it possible, as chair of the Finance Committee, if I could come as well, Mr. King?
Sure, yeah, I'll ask the people that invited me. But yeah, I have not a problem, as long as there's not three of us there. That's the key.
Out of that Kaiser Valley meeting, I mean, I've been in the area several times since the flooding. I live in the Kaiser Valley. But one of the main things that I wanted an update on was there was a meeting on Friday about the Briggs Street line that Mr. Smurl was just talking about how many inches the line was. It eventually, or at one point in time, it went through the property, so it carried water away, but now there might be a 90-degree angle in there. I don't think we've received any updates about how the meeting went on Friday and what came out of it, but if we could reach out to the administration to get the update from that meeting that occurred on Friday over that Briggs Street pipe.
I will, sir.
Thank you very much. So let's see. We did receive some responses to some questions today at 4 o'clock, so I was going through that during the meeting. I requested a list of, it stated, confidential city vehicles provided to council members. The administration is in receipt of this request. The information will be forthcoming, and Ms. Adina Pan does not drive a city vehicle, was included in that. There was We've been getting repeated requests for the fire department contract to be put on the website, and we did get a response that it's progress. The document is currently being worked on by Labor Council, same answer we've gotten in the past. For the city and the union, this is a lengthy process as a comprehensive document has not completed since 1996. Labor councils are actively working on the issue and are scheduled to meet again next month. Mr. Voldenberg, can we ask the administration if we could get a breakdown of the cost of the Labor Council that has specifically worked on just this contract?
I will, Mr. Schuster.
Thank you very much. The 1300 block of North Sumner Avenue, it does appear to be a court, but it is the 1300 block of North Sumner Avenue. I did get some calls about some complaints over there as this section of the street is blocked off by two large flower pots similar to the ones that up at Naog. They're, I'd say, several hundred to 1,000 pounds apiece, and they do block this alley. After some research, Mr. Voldenberg did discover that this is not a vacated street that has been blocked off, and the flower planters were moved. But today's email, it comes back, please be advised that the DPW moved the planters the week of 10/17. However, residents are now complaining about the moved planters and would like them moved back to North Sumner. Mr. Voldenberg, Katie Kennedy sent us this email. Could we ask Katie Kennedy for her legal opinion of whether this street is vacated, and if it is not vacated, how we could block a city street when there's residents above it that do not have access when the street is blocked?
I'll ask for her opinion.
Mr. Schuster, someone reached out to me as well from over in that area, and I think that there's a Paul Harvey version of this, the rest of the story. I think we want to look into it a little bit further because I think there's a debate over what exactly happened there, and I believe that those planters were placed in there back in maybe during the Doherty administration, and I just want to make sure that we've heard both sides before the ultimate decision.
Yeah, I mean, where I'm going here with this is it's not a vacated city street, and the street is blocked. It did come. The situation arose when there was street work being done either by the gas or the water company at near the bottom of the street, and residents had to park at the bottom and move up to their homes. And if there was ever an emergency at the top, it could be a major issue. So yeah, I do think there's. I'm looking at it from the legal aspect of is it a vacated city street and what kind of legal...
Mr. Smurl, the city planner determined it is not a vacated street.
It is not a vacated street,
So
yeah.
the planters were illegal.
If this law department could give us
I will.
Their opinion on why a non-vacated street would be blocked.
I'll take care of it, sir.
Thank you. When it comes to the emergency declaration, for the last 2 weeks, I asked about some actions that have been taken under that emergency declaration, and where I was going with that was I wanted to determine the costs that we were expending with these projects. So we did get a list of actions that we're taking under the 14-day emergency declaration, and a lot of the information we got back, which I was happy to have, was about 6 recovery and outreach events that happened, preceded by a county-organized multi-agency response center, things like that. But what I was specifically asking for was the actual actions that we've taken that have cost the city money or we've expended funds on. So included in the email from today, it said that there's contracts for Pensy for emergency paving, Rutledge for storm debris removal, acquiring properties at Market and Yard. But can we reach out and ask for the specific actions that have taken place that have used city funds? So the costs of the actions that we've taken under our emergency declaration.
I'll get that information, sir.
Thank you. That is all for tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Schuster. Dr. Rothchild?
Excuse me, one more thing. To answer Mr. Mancini, would I like to see the documents? Yes, I would like to see the documents. Sorry, that's all.
Thank you. Dr. Rothchild?
Thank you. I'll start with that question as well. I would also like to see the documents. A number of things tonight. First, I just wanted to speak to on our agenda tonight, item 7G. I had some concerns come up along from neighbors about this piece of legislation and the addition of utility poles on their street, and I don't think it's quite clear on the number of utility poles, and I just want to make sure we cross our Ts and dot our Is with this, because we've had issues with utility poles being installed in the city in the past. So I'd like to actually make a motion to table item 7G.
Second.
There's been a motion to table item 7G and a second on the question. I'll speak on the question. I had some neighbors reach out to me as well with concerns. I don't think that the documentation provided by PPL gives us enough information in terms of the size of these poles, in terms of how much to each side of these poles, where exactly they're going to be cutting through properties. They're going to be near the new Lackawanna Heritage Valley Trail. I'm just concerned about affecting, people's property values and really getting some details about the height of these. Are they those big, huge, massive, rusty poles that look terrible? Are they going to be stuck right in the middle of our neighborhoods? I'd like to have those answers before we pass this legislation.
I agree. It also is noted in there about having to clear out 25 feet on either side of the pole of trees, so how many trees are going to have to be taken down as a result of this.
So I would have to agree with you, both of you. So what we're going to ask for is specific questions regarding the specs of the project and the locations of the poles?
Correct. That's what I would hope, yes.
All right, and I think they should have, PP&L should have a schematic of it that we can get.
Yeah, in here, they kind of provide a crude drawing, but also there's a note that indicates, if you have any further questions or details, you could reach out to PP&L. Well, we're going to be reaching out, as far as I'm concerned, as long as 3 people vote for that.
All right, I'm in agreement.
Okay, so there's been a motion that's been seconded to table 7G, and since it's in 7th order, I think we should do a roll call on that. So if you're in favor of tabling 7G, you would say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Mr. Smurl?
There's going to do a roll call, but I just wanted to clarify.
Mr. Smurl?
Aye.
Mr. Schuster?
Aye.
Dr. Rothchild?
Aye.
Mr. McAndrew?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye. 7G is tabled. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I have a number of other things to bring up as well, and I'll have these forwarded to Mr. Voldenberg, too. There is a complaint about a property at rear 621 Alder Street, and it's been empty for several years. It's overgrown with grass and vines, and there's cat problems and other animal issues going on at that property, and the neighbor believes that they've received door tags, there's, and tickets at that property, but nothing's been done. So I'm curious to see if it's going to the magistrate or where it stands now, if you could check in on that one.
I will, Dr. Rothchild.
Thank you. And we had a thank you from a resident who had a complaint about 717 Harrison Avenue that I brought forward, and that's been cleaned up, and that was quickly rectified. So the neighbor really wanted to thank Mike Goerty, who is the code enforcement officer for the Hill, for helping and taking care of that. And I had a request, and I believe we've gotten this request in the past, but they're for crosswalks to be painted at Green Ridge and Wyoming, over near the library, and also near St. Paul's School on Penn Avenue. There's a lot of safety concerns in those areas with pedestrians, and so it's really important to the neighborhood that they get those crosswalks repainted. I know that the timeline might be shortened with colder weather coming in, but I'd like to make that request of DPW and see if that's possible to get completed.
I'll submit that tomorrow.
Thank you. And I have good news for Mr. Raines. He's not here tonight, but I did receive word that American Water is going to do the Monroe Avenue project before the end of 2023. So I was really happy to hear that the city, discussed the matter further with Pennsylvania American Water to get that done as quickly as possible and prioritized. So fingers crossed that it happens and that street is paved and his issues are taken care of. And something else I had brought forward and just want to provide an update on, and there are some more additional complaints too from neighbors about some of the utility projects that are going on in the hill section right now, and Prescott Avenue being one of them. The pave cut inspector, I'm not sure if they've gotten out there yet or if they were going to be getting out there to make sure to rectify that issue. And also Myrtle Avenue, there's been some problems with the construction taking place there. One resident was concerned about the noise levels for the school because it's right near Prescott Elementary School, and it's also been going on in the later evening hours up to 11 p.m. So definitely want to get someone out there to monitor the project and make sure they're operating within the hours that's in our ordinance.
I will, Dr. Rothchild.
Thank you. And 723 Wheeler Avenue, that's been inspected and cleaned up based on what I received. And just wanted to note that I appreciated the architect coming in tonight to discuss the different options for NAOG pool. As of now, I'm leaning towards the second option with the separate pools and facilities. I'm a lot happier with what we were presented with tonight compared to in the past, the earlier designs from the other company, and I think that this will, be a better plan moving forward, and I'm happy to see that it's happening and that, the city's going to put money towards it, and looking forward to having a pool and those facilities back at NAOG. I think that it could really be a great recreational complex, and I think we're thinking about the big picture with this. And just to reiterate on the points from Councilman Smurl and Councilman Schuster about meeting with the neighbors within the Kaiser Valley, I think it's really important that we're there and that we're able to identify those different problem areas with the neighbors. I mean, they know their neighborhood best, and they were there that night and witnessed what occurred. And it was, even though many of them came during a meeting a couple of weeks ago, and it was good to hear from them then, they showed us pictures and videos, and it is terrifying what they went through, and anything that we can do as a city to prevent it from happening again, we should. And I did early on provide support for an initiative to provide tax relief for the flood victims, the people involved, when the mayor was here a few weeks ago and had asked her about it. So happy to see that the city's planning on meeting with the county and the school district to see if that can take place within all those bodies. That's all that I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rothchild. Mr. McAndrew.
Okay, so first up, a couple of concerned residents from Greenridge came to me, and their concern is that they need help with crosswalks, and they're desperately needed at the library at Wyoming and Greenridge near St. Paul's School and Penn Avenue. They're afraid there's going to be a tragedy with some kids there. So, Mr. Voldenberg, would you please contact DPW with this concern and see if they can take care of this for us?
I will, sir.
Then secondly, so I was up at Kaiser Valley last week with some of my colleagues there, and the first thing they told me, they said, well, there was a guy here, and his name was Dennis Zakawalowitz. I don't know, I might be killing his name, but he was some type of manager. They said from the city, but he must be from the engineering group. And he was shown the area, the biggest point of contention up there that they keep bringing to us, and I believe them because they're aware of the effects of this pipe that no longer connects to Kaiser Creek or empty into Kaiser Creek.
Goes through to the other side of the tracks.
On Briggs Street, yeah, right. So, and it was determined, there was a gentleman there who has all these maps from the 50s. This guy, he's a lifelong resident there. He knows the effects before this pipe was an issue and after. So, and I brought this up a couple of weeks ago. So I said, you know, I'm glad you told us about a meeting because none of us were aware of it. This meeting was going to take place the next day. And this gentleman said, yeah, we'll bring up this issue. So, and the neighbors are led to believe, and I believe them, that because of this, I mean, the storm was horrendous, we all know that. But because of this pipe issue that no longer continues to Kaiser Creek, there's 4 drains on that street to come up. And they believe that contributed to all the houses that were lower and were underwater. So this can't wait for the construction phase and the planning phase, right? So we did get something back. And I'm assuming that this is from the meeting that was held on Friday, Mr. Voldenberg. Is it from administration?
I would assume. I did
Well, we
not
can
get a
double-check,
report
but
as yet.
The answer is the city will work with GPI engineering firm to identify any potential immediate improvements that can be made. Fair enough. But as long as the improvements do not negatively impact neighboring properties or streams. Because where this issue lies is someone who built a house a few years ago took over this property that wasn't theirs and somehow disconnected or covered that. They're part of the problem, right? So to say, oh, we'll take a look at it, but you know, I don't know, we might do something if it doesn't negatively impact neighboring properties or stream conditions. Guess what? It's the cause. So I don't think the people of Kaiser Avenue, or Kaiser Valley, want to hear this as the answer. We can't wait. And that was the biggest thing they said to me, that my biggest takeaway was, we can't let this happen again. So if they're going to dabble back and forth and think about, I'm afraid of infringing on someone's property, because all these others were destroyed. I need to, please, Mr. Voldenberg, this answer we received, I want to know if this is the answer from the meeting that occurred on Friday. And if so, I want to know when they're going to make a decision and when they're going to fix this. Because this is a vague answer that I'm not happy with. And I know the residents of Kaiser Valley will not be happy with this answer, because it's not an answer.
I'll get more information, sir.
All right, thank you. So next up, and this relates to Mr. Mancini's question that he posed to us. So about 3 years ago, I'm on vacation in Cape May, had a great time. I'm at an establishment with some family members. And we're talking, and a gentleman and his wife sitting across from us goes, hey, you must be from Scranton. I said, how'd you guess? He said, I don't know, I can just tell by the way you talk and you guys interact. I said, well, why? Where are you from? He goes, well, I have spent some time in Scranton, but I'm originally from Harrisburg. And I said, yeah. And I said, well, where do you work? And he goes, I work for American Water. I said, really? And I said, well, I'm on Scranton City Council. And really, I know this sounds like a councilman walked into a bar with American Water employee, but it's not a joke. This is true. I said, really? I said, well, yeah, thanks a lot, buddy. And he goes, well, you know, the problem was, they said, yeah. I said, first of all, you were supposed to take care of stormwater. He said, that was part of the deal. We were willing to do that, but it didn't happen. He said, but buddy, you know what happened. I said, what? He said, all the lawyers got the money. So with that said, prior to that, and this came from, I'm not going to say his name, but this came from an employee. He's still an employee. But prior to that, I was in favor of an audit. Voted on it, voted on a letter being sent to the Auditor General. Am I still in favor of that? Yes. So to answer your question, do I want to see them documents? Of course I do, more than ever. What measures would I take? Whatever necessary. So I hope we can still do this. I know we're waiting for an emergency meeting to move this forward. I think we need to do this once and for all. Because we're a laughing stock. That guy was laughing. He turned it into a joke, but it's the truth. And I think that is all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McAndrew. I have a few items here, responses for Joan Hodawan. It's Scranton Sewer Authority advised today, as you heard earlier, the special meeting scheduled for this afternoon was canceled due to lack of quorum. The meeting is tentatively scheduled for, is it this Thursday, Frank, October 26th at 5:30? Okay, in the governor's room. Okay. Regarding the CBA contracts on the city website, City Law Department advised that's in progress. The document is currently, you're not going to be happy with the answer. The document is currently being worked on by Labor Council for the city and the union. This is a lengthy process as a comprehensive document has not been completed since 1996. The Labor Councils are actively working on this issue and are scheduled to meet again next month. For Doris, she had inquired about those satellite dishes. There's no requirement in city zoning ordinance that satellite dishes located on property roofs or yards be removed. The Mingle with the Mayor feature in the city will continue in November and December. Dates and times will be scheduled in advance via the city website and social media. Submitted follow-up requests for curb cuts at Olive Street and Colfax Avenue and East Gibson Street and Colfax Avenue. She's been asking for that for about a year now, so I think we really need to try to expedite that if we could, Frank.
I will.
And send a request for tree trimming near the stop sign at Wheeler Avenue and Myrtle Street. Also, for Mark Scarinci, ABM Parking researched the noise complaint in regard to the pedestrian exit warning alarm. I think that's out here on Mulberry Street. This is a safety feature to warn pedestrians of exiting garage traffic. In the event there's a line of vehicles exiting the Mulberry exit, this alarm is designed to sound while a vehicle is still on the detection loop. Also, the city fire trucks must alert traffic at the intersection of emergency vehicles passing through that intersection in the city. Also, to answer Mr. Mancini, and I appreciate you asking about my health. Thank you. I am for that as well. I'd like to see those documents. I think that's important. Also, we talked about tax relief. There's going to be a meeting with the three bodies. I just want to say on the record that regardless of what comes of the meeting with the county or with the school district, I think that the city, I want to do it regardless of whether those other two taxing bodies provide stormwater relief. I've been around long enough where, even though I was not an elected official, I was an appointed official as a superintendent of schools, where we granted LERTAs, we granted KOZs, and people had tax relief for years. To think that we won't provide some type of tax relief for these people who, to no fault of their own, got devastated by this stormwater. I'll gladly go to those meetings, I'll participate in them, and I'll encourage the other taxing bodies to do something, take some action, but I want it on the record, regardless of what they say. If they say no, they say yes, I want to see this body take some action with respect to that.
Mr. King, if you would like to make a motion tonight to have Solicitor Gallagher start unilateral legislation from council, I would second that motion.
I don't know that as council president I'm allowed to make the motion.
You can't make a motion. You can make it.
Someone else can make the motion.
I would make the motion that we have our solicitor start looking into and researching how we can, as council, unilaterally provide property tax relief for the affected areas in the city of Scranton.
Second.
So there's been a motion to have our solicitor, and there's been a motion and a second to have our solicitor to look in to developing some legislation that would provide tax relief to those individuals who were greatly affected, lost their properties, what have you. I guess it would have to be determined to what level or who would qualify for that, but to develop some legislation to bring back to this body to authorize some tax relief for those victims of the most recent flooding that occurred in September, I think it was September 9th. On the question, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it, so moved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Also, I do want to thank, you know, obviously, I wasn't here 2 weeks ago. I had some serious surgery. First time in my life, any surgery of any kind. And it's kind of a scary situation. And all my colleagues and everyone and some people here in the audience have reached out to me during this time. I couldn't participate 2 weeks ago due to the surgery. And then last week, I participated from home because I could do it from home, but I couldn't do it here as a result of recovering from that surgery. And I'm still, quite frankly, not over it, but I'm thrilled to be here. I'm thrilled to be healthy. I'm thrilled to be participating back and happy to be in these chambers tonight and serving the people of the city of Scranton. So that's all I have for now. Thank you.
5B for introduction, an ordinance ratifying the extended local declaration of emergency issued by the Office of the Mayor and authorizing the Office of the Mayor to exercise and enforce the emergency powers necessary to preserve the health, welfare, and safety of the citizenry of the city of Scranton as a result of the localized flooding that occurred on September 9th, 2023 through October 20th, 2023.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion, item 5B be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second?
On the question.
On the question, last week I said very similar things. We did get some of the answers that I was looking for in regards to actions taken during the emergency declaration, but what I was looking for was the projects that we completed and the associated costs of those actions. So tonight, again, I'm going to request a list of the actions that have been completed with the associated costs, so we know what kind of money has been spent under this order. I do know that it's going to be moving into 6th and 7th, and I'll move it from 5th to 6th and 6th to 7th, but I would like to hold it up until we get those costs that are associated.
All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
I make a motion to suspend the rules to move item 5B to 6th and 7th order for a final vote.
Second.
On the question.
On the question, again, I will vote to move it from 5th to 6th and into 7th, but I would like to wait until we have a list of those actions with their associated costs before final passage.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5C for introduction, an ordinance ratifying the execution of another time of sensitive temporary construction easement agreements between affected City of Scranton property owners and the City of Scranton to complete the Federal Emergency Management Agency projects in accordance with FEMA debris removal construction plans, which are to be completed by the deadline of December 31st, 2023.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion, item 5C be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question.
On the question, Mr. Voldenberg, if we could just reach out to see how many of these, what was the total number of FEMA projects from 2018? How many have been completed so far, and then how many we have pending?
I'll look into it, sir.
Thank you, Frank.
All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5D for introduction, a resolution authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute and enter into a contract with Smart Recycling, Inc. to perform services for demolition of hazardous structures, 2755.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion, item 5D be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question. All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5E for introduction, a resolution authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute and enter into a contract with Rudolph Clark LLC to perform services of review of non-taxable properties for the city of Scranton.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5E be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question.
On the question, it came up during public comment tonight about adding an expenditure cap or a not-to-exceed number. So if we could just reach out to the administration and see if there's a possibility to have that added to this piece of legislation.
All those in
find that
favor
out,
of
sir.
introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
Okay. Sixth order, 6A, formerly 5B, reading by title, file the council number 93, 2023, an ordinance ratifying the extended local declaration of emergency issued by the office of the mayor and authorizing the office of the mayor to exercise and enforce the emergency powers necessary to preserve the health, welfare, and safety of the citizenry of the city of Scranton as a result of the localized flooding that occurred on September 9th, 2023 through October 20th, 2023.
You've heard reading by title of item 6A. What is your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I move that item 6A pass reading by title.
Second.
On the question.
On the question again, I will move it to seventh order, but hope that it could be held up there until we get a list of the actions that have been taken under the emergency order and the costs that are associated with them.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
Seventh order, 7A, for consideration by the Committee on Community Development for adoption, resolution number 314, 2023, authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute and enter into a contract with Breakpoint Law to perform professional registry services, included but not limited to managing and maintaining a registry of foreclosed properties in the city of Scranton.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson of the Committee on Community Development?
As chairperson for the Committee on Community Development, I recommend final passage of item 7A.
Second.
Second.
On the question. Roll call, please.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes. I hereby declare item 7A legally and lawfully adopted.
7B, for consideration by the Committee on Community Development for adoption, resolution number 315, 2023, authorizing the mayor, Office of Economic and Community Development, and other appropriate city officials for the city of Scranton to execute and enter into an agreement with Quad 3 Group, Inc. to provide national emission standard for hazardous air pollutants, asbestos inspection services for hazardous properties within the city of Scranton.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Community Development?
As chairperson for the Committee on Community Development, I recommend final passage of item 7B.
Second.
On the question. On the question, I will say that I'm happy to see this going through tonight, and hopefully it'll go through. This is what's been holding up a number of demolitions in the city because a lot of those structures, you can't just go in there and start tearing them down. They have to be inspected for asbestos issues, and if there is asbestos, it needs to be remediated before the demolition occurs. So I'll be supporting this evening.
Okay.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7B legally and lawfully adopted.
7C, for consideration by the Committee on Rules for adoption, resolution number 316, 2023, appointment of Ryan Flanagan, Scranton, Pennsylvania, as a member of the Planning Commission for the City of Scranton, replacing Sharabash Patel, whose term expired May 24th, 2023, and was held over. Ryan Flanagan's four-year term will begin upon execution of the resolution and will expire on May 24th, 2027.
Mr. Chairperson, for the Committee on Rules, I recommend final passage of item 7C.
Second.
On the question. Roll call, please.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7C legally and lawfully adopted.
7D, for consideration by the Committee on Rules for adoption, resolution number 317, 2023, appointment of Alexander Plack, Scranton, Pennsylvania, as a member of the Board of Ethics to fill the unexpired term of Patricia Dunleavy. Alexander Plack's term will begin upon execution of the resolution and will expire on August 31st, 2025.
Mr. Chairperson, for the Committee on Rules, I recommend final passage of item 7D.
Second.
On the question. Roll call, please.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7D legally and lawfully adopted.
7E for consideration by the Committee on Rules for Adoption, Resolution Number 318, 2023, appointment of Selena Andiapan, Scranton, Pennsylvania, to serve as a member of the Board of Directors of the Lackawanna County Land Bank, replacing Mitesh Patel. Selena Andiapan's term is effective upon execution of the resolution and will expire December 31st, 2025.
As chairperson for the Committee on Rules, I recommend final passage of item 7E.
Second.
On the question. Roll call, please.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes. I hereby declare item 7E legally and lawfully adopted.
7F for consideration by the Committee on Public Works for adoption, Resolution Number 319, 2023, authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute and enter into a contract with BKP Architects, P.C. to perform a design for the outdoor Western Field Pool Complex.
What's the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Public Works?
As chairperson for the Committee on Public Works, I recommend final passage of item 7F.
Second.
On the question. Roll call, please.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes. I hereby declare item 7F legally and lawfully adopted.
7G is currently tabled. 7H for consideration by the Committee on Rules for adoption, Resolution Number 321, 2023, amending Resolution 310, 2023, a resolution entitled Appointment of Teresa Gritano, Ph.D., Scranton, Pennsylvania, as a member of the City of Scranton's Ethics Board for a term of 5 years. Teresa Gritano, Ph.D.'s term is effective upon execution of the resolution and will expire August 31st, 2028, to strike the term of 5 years and replace the same with 3 years.
As chairperson for the Committee on Rules, I recommend final passage of item 7H.
Second.
On the question. Roll call, please.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes. I hereby declare item 7H legally and lawfully adopted.
7I, formerly 6A, for consideration by the Committee on Public Works for adoption, file of Council Number 93, 2023, ratifying the extended local declaration of emergency issued by the Office of the Mayor and authorizing the Office of the Mayor to exercise and enforce the emergency powers necessary to preserve the health, welfare, and safety of the citizenry of the City of Scranton as a result of the localized flooding that occurred on September 9th, 2023 through October 20th, 2023.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson of the Committee for Public Works?
As chairperson for the Committee on Public Works, I recommend final passage of item 7I.
Second.
On the question.
On the question, I'd like to make a motion to table item 7I.
Second.
It's been a motion to table 7I in a second. On the question on that, I know that we're looking for those expenditures. We're kind of doing this post haste here. I still believe that we can get those answers, and it probably won't affect ultimately the passing of this. But I'd like to see this go through tonight and still get the answers and hopefully have them by next week.
Yeah, as today is the 24th, I don't think it really has affected any of the actions that have taken place, as they would have already have taken place.
I agree. This came a little late, but you know what? We ask questions, we want the answers. It's almost like we have to beg every week or every other week for information to make informed decisions. Simple request.
So there's been a motion, and it's been seconded to table item 7I. Roll call, please.
Mr. Smurl?
No.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
No.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. King?
No. So we'll go back to the original motion. I'll ask for a roll call on the original motion. The table failed. 3-2. So roll call.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
No.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
No.
Mr. King?
Yes. Hereby declare item 7I legally and lawfully adopted.
Eighth order, 8A, file to council number 64, 2023.
This ordinance is creating overtime reporting requirements for all city departments and employees. It's been tabled until we receive additional information from the administration.
8B, file to council number 91, 2023.
This ordinance established permanent parking in the 800 block of Olive Street. It's been tabled until the public hearing was held this evening. It will be placed in the 7th order next week for final vote.
8C, resolution number 313, 2023.
This resolution is a contract with Performance High Fidelity to perform audiovisual services, meeting space enhancements for City Hall. It's been tabled until we receive clarification from the administration. If there's no further business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.